Okay, we are live.
All right, thank you. I'm going to call this meeting of the Facilities Finance Committee together to order for the school district and start off by asking for public comment, if there is any.
Not at this time, Mr. Hilton.
Thank you. And so now I will turn this over to Mr. Willauer, who's going to talk about our ruse.
Thank you, Mr. Hilton. I'm going to share my screen here. As I do that, just a quick update. We did have the generator at the high school. Our backup generator is installed and up and running, so that is completed. Okay, so last month we did an overview of the administration and Edgewood roofs. So we do have some final numbers in. And we did come in under budget on both roofs. So administration building, we had a rough cost from Tremco of 400,000. We came in at 342,715. That's again a small diagram here that just shows it's all the shingled roofs. We're not touching the flat roofs. So that is the admin. And then Edgewood, we were at 1.9 million. Without any alternates at all, we're at 1.723. We do have an option to replace the through-wall flashing. That would be an additional 87,000. That is something we can cut out. In my opinion, I believe we are totally fine and safe without that. It's more of an aesthetic pleasing thing, in which up on the top of a roof on an old building, that's not a major concern. As far as any leaks or structural issues, what we have there now is definitely sufficient.
Wow, I'm delighted to hear that recommendation.
Is there any questions or comments at all on either of the roofs?
Okay, well, since there are three of us here, do I have the consensus? Oh, there's not three of us, there's two of us. I'm counting Maureen. She's not on the school
No,
board.
there's four of us here.
Really? Why am I not being able to see these people?
Oh, there might be just hidden. We have Mr. Amato, we have Mr. Klein, we have Miss Johnson, and we have
Oh,
you.
why am I not being able to see these people? Well, there's Mr. Amato. Okay, well, I was thinking this was a pretty sparsely attended meeting, but now I find I'm just not seeing it. So are the members of the committee comfortable with going ahead with a recommendation to authorize Dan to get started in the process of replacing these roofs next summer?
I'm
Yes.
good with it.
Okay, well, is that everything you have, Mr. Willauer?
I have one more,
Okay.
which just came up after we had our agenda out. It's this slide here. We are looking to purchase a new work truck with a plow on it. Currently, the last maintenance vehicle we purchased as far as trucks is just about 10 years ago, is in 2016. So it'd be a great addition for our crew and for our staff to continue being able to keep our schools open. And that's just shy of 60,000. And that would be truck, plow, and ready to go.
Mr. Willauer, did you say replacement or in addition to?
It would be an addition to the fleet, but as well, because we do have two vans that our guys have, which are two-wheel drive, so they are unable to do any plowing at this point. So that would give us another vehicle during snowstorms to be able to utilize, which would be much help.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, take my screen down. That's what I have, Mr. Hilton.
Well, considering that
I can't find my hand. I'm sorry.
I wouldn't be able to see it anyway, so don't worry about it. Go ahead.
What is that in the budget for this year, or is that something
Yes.
outside the budget?
Yeah, we do have that able to be budgeted for this year. Yeah.
Oh, great, thanks.
And in addition, we're saving a lot of money on what we thought the roofs were gonna cost, so that would pay for the truck right there. All right, well, thank you very much, Mr. Willauer. And I will now end this meeting, the facilities meeting, and move on to finance, when I know Mrs. Oakley is going to give us a detailed report on the impact of the new state budget.
I will,
This is-
I will
this-
try my best, Mr. Hillen.
Well, Mr. Rodriguez, I saw him this afternoon. He said she's got it all down. Just kidding you. Go ahead.
No, I have some exciting news for you. But first I will start out with our standard items. We do have two contracts on for your consideration. The first is a special ed contract. It's for partial hospitalization. And the second is a Gear Up grant agreement. The new funding through the Gear Up grant, which helps provide college career readiness for our students, is going to be, it's actually going to be awarded to Norristown, and we will be the pass-through recipient. So we've worked closely, Dr. White, Stephen and I have worked closely with Norristown to come up with the grant agreement. And as always, everything that falls under this grant would always be pending the federal funds. So if something with the federal funds were to be removed, then we would remove these services. So these are all extra services that we get primarily through the Lincoln Center. However, they do have some really neat programs that our students can take advantage of. They have some travel exploration programs, and I'll leave that to Dr. White in the future to give you all of those details, but we're pretty excited about the Gear Up funding that we're going to be getting. So that will be on for your consideration as well. The next item, I believe, has already been discussed at the committee last week, but it's the PSBA adoption. I guess at this point, we'll have to decide. This could probably be removed. So as of Tuesday, we put this on for please pass a budget. And here we are sitting Thursday and we have a budget. So I guess we could actually strike this item from the approval next week. So thank you for all your hard work and commentary in this resolution, but I guess we won't need it.
We just had to threaten to pass a resolution and they listened to us.
Yeah, maybe that's the tactic.
I'm sure.
The next item I have is just an annual substitute tax collector appointment, which appoints myself as the substitute tax collector and allows us to, remain compliant in all of our tax collecting duties and ensure that we turn everything over at the end of the tax collection period over to the county as far as delinquencies. So again, that's just an annual resolution. And then lastly, I have the budget snapshot year-to-date review. So if you just bear with me, I will pull that up on my computer. And I believe, can you all see my screen at this point? Yeah, okay, great. All right, so we're going to look at this year's budget, which is the 25-26 budget, which, as we know, at this point, the state has just passed. I do want to just put out there a little summary. The reason why I want to show this today is to give context. Last year's budget was a general view as we worked through, and it was, there was a lot. We had to work through a deficit. We had to go through a lot of items that we wanted to decide if we wanted to keep, not keep, move forward. We did a lot of work, and understanding that the way the expenses come through, the timing, this will help clarify things as we move through this budget and move into next year's budget. Since then, we've definitely shown budget discipline. We've done a lot of things internally, made sure that we're double, triple checking, the way the state, the way the formula comes through, the way we receive funding, making sure that all of our reporting has been compliant. We've really just looked at every single bill to make sure that It's something that's necessary. We had COVID funding come in. We had a number of different funding sources that came through as a result of COVID and post-COVID. So we really wanted to make sure that everything that we were going to move forward with, we were going to be able to sustain and not have to come back and go through this grievous process again. I want to make sure that we do respond to all your feedback, keep you informed, and also any challenges we see ahead, excuse me. This isn't for any action, it's just for context and transparency. So I just wanted to put that out there that, you know, there's nothing that we need to take any action on tonight, and we'll move through. So as far as food service goes, we haven't gotten anything additionally, but that the USDA has confirmed funding through the end of November. My presumption is that that would change and that we will continue as the state will release some more funding, and as well as the feds will release their funding. But we're in good shape. We have 4 months of operating expenses. I would say that there's nothing to worry about there. We're going to continue to operate status quo food service program. That was never really a discussion that we were talking about pausing anything relating to food service, which is positive. But I did want to give you an idea of how many months operating expenses we have in that fund, just so you have an idea of like our monthly expenses are a little over 300,000, and we have cash of about 1.3 million on hand. Next, I had a request from Mr. Armato, and this was pre-budget being passed, but the request was to look at what are the revenues compared to last year, like where do we stand this year with the lack of state funding, and on the expense side, how are we doing as far as expenses? So on the revenue side, you'll see this year locally, we have about a little over $2 million more in local funding. That I would say is probably attributed to the timing of the real estate tax deposits. We've noticed a little bit of lag in some of the deposits that we have. The borough actually collects our real estate taxes for us. So they make the deposits. We were noticing a little bit of a lag. We asked them to, ensure that the deposits would be timely. So that's probably why you're seeing everything in through September 30th. It looks a little bit higher. It doesn't mean we're going to get more money necessarily. It just means that the deposits have been made a little bit more timely. On the state side, you'll see that we're down about $5 million. It's because we didn't get the majority of our state funding. We did receive the gaming revenue, which that comes in through the state. We received half of that. That gets passed through in the form of a homestead farmstead rebate. There was also some additional revenues that we've received for pre-K counts, things that probably it's just a timing of, does it go back to last year? Does it need to be accounted for this year? So that's why you see revenue in the state column. But that does not include any of the regular state revenues that we receive, like our basic ed subsidies, special ed subsidies, ready to learn money. I assume that the gaming revenue has a different stature it follows because we did receive that deposit about 2 months ago. And then on the federal side, most of the federal expenditures are reimbursed. So as we expense items, we then seek reimbursement. So as you can see, they're low for the Q1 because we typically, are just now getting to put in our expense reports. They then reimburse us. So that's pretty much the same year over year. On the expense side, we look as if we're down a little bit in expenses in the Q1, and that's because some of the expenses that we didn't pay. So we opted to hold back on some of the charter funding pass through. There was PSERS, our reimbursement, our expense for PSERS, which is our retirement expense. They actually modified the payment that we needed to make to the PSERS fund because of the impasse of the budget. So that's why it looks as if we're less than we were last year. But in reality, all of those expenses will catch up as now we have a budget. So I did link both of the treasurer's report for the last 2 years, which are available through the board docs, but I did put them in this presentation, and I'm happy to share this also to board members. So looking at our expenses, again, this was the request. We wanted to look at what do we spend, monthly. So as you can see, there's a bit of variation. November, obviously this was a partial month. But as far as using this as information, like we have expenses that we haven't paid. So our budget's a little over 90 million. If you divide that by 12, it's about 7.5 million on average of expense. It goes in a flow. July is low because we don't have teachers' salaries that we're paying in July. We have some of our staff that actually their earnings are 2 weeks behind. So like those expenses would get posted back to last fiscal year because they're for work that was performed before June 30th. So just to show you a little bit about like how the timing of some of the expenditures work, it doesn't always look, it's not an easy, it's not a 7.5, 7.5, 7.5, and then we just see where we are each month over month. Things do come in waves. And especially you'll see as we move forward on the expense side, I wanted to show you last year, and this was actually a request from Mrs. Johnson, last year's final expenses versus last year's budget versus this year's budget, and then this year to date, as well as this year encumbrance. Encumbrance is basically like earmarked. We know we're going to have this. We put an encumbrance in, and that helps us do projections of where we'll end up. But some of these expenses, you can't put an encumbrance in because they get deducted right out of our state subsidy. So there's some tuitions for students, they call them 4010s, where special ed students are placed by the state, and those tuitions come right out of our revenue. So it's not like we see bills for that kind of stuff. So we don't put purchase orders in the system. We don't put earmarks on those kinds of expenses because they just come right out of and they're the most difficult things because we don't see them. We don't see them until we get paid. They take the money out and then they tell us what it's for. So that happens throughout the year. So just to kind of give you an idea of how the process works and why it's not just look in the system, run a report and see where we are. It's not always going to be accurate and true because you have to account for some of those things that like you not only are they unknown, but you don't even see them. So to look at last year, and we'll move through more of where we ended up last year as we move through finalizing our audit this year. But I will say we are about $2 million to the good from last year. We did have more, we had about $92 million of revenue. And as you can see, we're sitting at about $90 million of expense. So all of this is unaudited. I wouldn't anticipate it to change much, but there could be some final journal entries that the auditors recommend. And I would ballpark that we're about $2 million to the good for last year. And as you can see, this year's budget, we're projected at $78 million on the 92 million. But again, I just want to caveat that that doesn't include some of these things that we're going to start to see to flow now because we have a state budget. So just a little bit of a deeper dive. This is the same exact slide that I showed you lastly with 24-25 budget to actual, 25-26 budget to year to date plus encumbrance, and then where we sit as far as a variance. And as you can see, we're in the negative pretty much all the way down the line. But again, just means that we're in a good shape. But we still have unknowns. I mean, it's November. We just got a state budget, so we're going to be catching up on even some of the expense side, because some of the expenses flow to us through the revenue side. So again, I will share this with the board, and if you have more specific questions regarding any of these labels on the side, they're actually the account codes. If you would like me to do a deeper dive into any of them, I'm happy to do so. We'll move a little bit more tonight into one of the biggest ones, which is the tuitions. So we'll take a little bit of look at that when we talk about some of the reform on the cyber charter side. But as you can see, the variance column mostly negative, because we're looking like we would come in under, but we're just in quarter 1, closing quarter 1, moving into quarter 2. So moving through state budget. So taking a look at the revenues, I didn't do the same year-to-date kind of comparison, because this was more important today. Once we got these final numbers, I wanted to make sure this is going to be a better representation, so that when we move through revenue projections, we're actually basing them on real state numbers, which is super helpful. So on the basic ed side, we're going to see about $600,000 more than what we had budgeted. On the special ed side, about $30,000 more than what we had budgeted. I'm sorry, that 3.660, that should have a few more numbers beyond that. I guess I left those out. I'll update that though. It's still in the same ballpark. We budgeted about 3.6 million. State gave us $30,000 more than we budgeted. On the ready to learn side, we're going to see about $880,000 additionally. So with our conservative budgeting, we're in good shape. We're not going to see any more of a deficit. We're going to actually see about 1.5 million more than what we had originally planned. And I will pause because I see Mrs. Johnson, so I do want to stop here if there's something you want to.
Yeah, I have maybe other questions for when you're done. I didn't want to interrupt you, except I did want you to call out what the ready to learn is, because that's like the thing we've been talking about for the last 10
Yeah.
12 years. Yeah.
Sure. So the ready to learn, it has 3 components. So it has an equity component and a adequacy component. So with the equity component, the tax equity component, those are funds that we actually have to pass a resolution, and we need to decide how we're going to spend them. There's a list of ways that we can spend them. Last year, our resolution was passed that we would lessen the burden on the taxpayers through the millage. So we would not increase additionally millage, and we would make sure that we use those funds to offset any additional tax increase that we would pass through to taxpayers. On the adequacy side, there are certain programs that we can fund with those funds, and they include a whole host of things: college career readiness, library, counseling, intervention, reading, math. I mean, it's a pretty long list of things that we can do for our students. But like, for instance, like we couldn't use that funding for facilities. So I believe the base portion of our Ready to Learn is about 4.8 million. And then I think there's, I'd have to go back and look. I don't have the breakdown in front of me. I don't think
The reason I'm calling that out is both the part from this year and the part that at least some of the base, that is the fair funding that we were fighting for all those
Correct.
years. That is, they're sticking the fair funding ever since Level Up. And then there was something else, and then there was the first year installment, and then there's the second year installment of fair funding. They're using that Ready to Learn grant as the place to start building up that base for us to be getting what we're owed. And in one case, they called it hold harmless relief, I believe, which was kind of funny. so that's kind of what I'm getting at there. And they have it broken into those two parts where you've got your tax equity and your adequacy, because it's a recognition that not only have our students been harmed by the lack of funding, but our
Mhm.
taxpayers have, which is where we get that tax equity piece. And I chuckle because we raised taxes last year, but the point being, we would have potentially had to raise them even more had we not gotten something from the state
Correct.
to help
And
offset.
and since you mentioned the advocacy, the Ready to Learn funding for years and years and years, I would say up until probably 2021 was $500,000. It was 559,007 for
Mhm.
probably a steady 10 to 15 years looking back. It then increased to 1.5 million. It then increased to 3 million. And then now, as you can see, I mean, we're $6.8 million. So, I mean, that tells you they're attempting to level the playing field, which is really beneficial for us. So yes, thank you for mentioning that. And I see Mr. Amato, so I'll also.
Yes, thank you. First, to just reemphasize what Mrs. Johnson was saying, and I believe what you were saying, and that is, it appears as if we're seeing some benefit to the advocacy work that we've been doing for several years, and I would suggest that that just means we have to keep moving forward with those efforts and not be happy with where we are yet. So help me out with this, because I need things very simple for me. The projection that looks like we will be getting a little bit more than $1.5 million above what you had originally budgeted, and we all agreed that you would be using a conservative number for budgeting of what we could expect in terms of revenue from the state. And so now, by these numbers, we are $1.5 million ahead of what we were assuming we might get. What does that mean? What does that mean to simplify for us, knowing that we ended up with a $9 million deficit and had to do some things to balance the budget? What does this $1.5 million do for us?
So our final budget, we had a use of fund balance of 3.8 million. And with this additional revenue, we now have a use of fund balance of 2.3 million. But as I move forward in some of the next slides, we'll see that there was also additional reform. And I didn't want to put a number to that because we don't have any of, like, I don't have the final forms when it comes to the charter funding. So right now we're sitting at 2.3 use of fund balance. But as we move through some of this additional charter reform / cost avoidance, that's going to lessen.
So to that point, exactly. And again, I need things very, very simple for me. This is what I took from what you said. We will still be starting, as of today, this very moment, with using these numbers. We will still be starting our budgeting for 26-27 with about $2.3 million in the hole.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And our hope is, as you just explained, that we see some benefit from the hopefully charter reform, which, depending on what numbers you look at, could be as much as $1 million plus. So let's assume for a second that it's $1 million. We would still be starting budgeting for the 26-27 school year about $1.5 million in the hole. Deficit.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. Today. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so moving right along into the charter funding changes. So this was positive across the board when it came down to the way that we are going to fund our charters on, through what the process of the 363 form. I don't know if that rings a bell for you, but that is the actual formula in which we use to take our budget. We're allowed to take certain deductions off of that. And then we come up with, now, as of last year, was 3 different rates. It was a regular education student rate. It was a special education student who attended a brick and mortar school, which is a physical school. And then there was the cyber piece for special education. So we come up with these 3 different tuitions, and that's the money that we're obligated to pay for our charter students. So looking at some of the reform, we have deductions that we can now back out of what we need to pass through to charters. So one of the deductions is the cost of the regular ed cyber charter students. So with that, I would anticipate, I'd have to go back and double check exactly how many cyber charter students we have on the regular ed side. And again, without having this actual form being presented, I'm just trying to give some rough numbers and give you a picture of what some of this reform actually looks like. But that could be up to $1.9 million of deductions, which we want to see the deductions because that it means less money that we will pass through. The next item that they allowed us to deduct that was new was for tax assessment and collection services. So right now I would say that's estimated about $300,000. We could also deduct about 60% of student activities expenses and 60% of operation and maintenance of the facilities. So I would estimate that could come in around $1,500 per student, and at 230 students, it could mean close to $300,000 to $400,000. Again, without the actual form, as soon as we have that, when it's released from PDE, it'll spell out all the rules that we need to follow. But just looking at what was presented today, it means additional savings. As Mr. Amato said, like, where would we start our budget next year? It's cost avoidance that we're going to be able to take in this current year. So we will be better off than where we thought we were ending and passing our budget in June of June 2025 for this current period. Regarding the cyber charter, there's a tuition calculation. So you can take either what I have, our current cyber charter tuition, which is $33,000 for special ed, or you can take whatever your regular ed rate comes out to and times that by 1.89. So looking at it today, it would look like that we're going to save additionally on our cyber special ed kids. Right now, again, rough calculations, we might save up to $10,000 per special ed cyber student. So what does that mean in terms of how many students and where we land with all of those costs? Again, I'm going to have to wait till PDE gives us the final forms so we can work through the formula. But right now, the 363 that we filed for 25-26 had us at a rate of $13,006 for regular ed students, whether they're brick and mortar or cyber. Special ed students who attended a school, we were looking at paying $45,000 per student. And then our cyber students, we were looking at paying $33,000 per student. So there's definitely going to be opportunity for cost avoidance, and we are happy to see this reform come through. Just to look at the enrollment numbers, and again, this is total enrollment, so this does not break down by special ed, cyber, special ed, but just in general, you will see that since 1920, our enrollments have absolutely increased. I mean, we're in October and we have 333 charter students. So that's a whole mix of regular ed, special ed, and cyber special ed. But that is, I will say, that's going to be a budget pressure. Even with the reform, it's still something that we, aren't necessarily able to control. We have students, I mean, for a host of reasons, Dr. White, I know she's reported out on this before, but we have students who start at a charter school. They never attend any of our buildings. We have students that just simply move into our district and already are attending a charter. So we just pick up the bill because they now have a Pottstown address. Some of the additional reform that had come through had to do with safeguards and additional reporting that the charter schools now have to, they're mandated by the state. They're mandated to do different kind of address residency verifications. A lot of things that we've wanted for years were held to a certain standard when it comes to our financials and financial reporting, address verification, truancy, all of these things that we have to do are now starting to funnel through to the charter schools. So we're happy to see that. And, I know Laura's excited to share some of that through her committee later on this evening about, the different things that had passed as far as the different reforms that the charters are now going to be mandated to do. So moving through, again, I just wanted to give, of course, I did most of this presentation before today in the budget, but I did want to give you an idea of like where we ended last year, looking at the charter school. So we're almost at $6 million in charter school payments. 330 students, $6 million. That's pretty much what it equates to. And we're happy to see some of that reform because that will change some of the cost per student, which will see some of that cost avoidance. So moving along, another one of the budget pressures that I wanted to kind of dive into a little bit is special education. So we have seen an increase in not only the total number of special education students that we have, we've also seen an increase in the category of which the student falls into. So what does that mean? Category, as you can see, the chart on the very bottom, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. The state had actually changed this and they changed it to 1A, 1B, 2, 3A, 3B. So I was trying to hybrid the 2 years together, but just to give you an idea, as you can see, category 4 or category 3B is increasing. So not only are we seeing more special education students, but we're seeing more expensive special education students. So again, happy to see that charter reform because as we know, our most expensive special education students are ours. They're mostly placed out. We mostly pay for their tuition. We pay for their transportation, and they're the most expensive kiddos. Those are not the kiddos that are going to cyber or brick and mortar charter school. We take them and we have, those students are ours and they're our responsibility. So when they take the formula of total cost for special education and divide it amongst, population of special ed and then say that's what you then need to pay the charter, it's really unfair because most of our kids, or in this case last year 27 of our kids costed over $90,000. It is highly unlikely that the charter schools are taking on the $90,000 kids. We can see that most of them are remaining here with us and they are our responsibility. So just to show you, not only are we getting more special ed students, their costs have been more expensive. Like we have more category 3B, we have more category 3A. The costs are shifting and not in the direction that is favorable on our bottom line. again, looking at that same pressure special ed kids. Early intervention, age of beginner. Early intervention, you may be familiar with. That's a program that is pre-school aged kids. So it's before you get to kindergarten. The IU actually pays for these students. They identify these students. We pay for all the transportation for these students, but we don't pay for their programs until they become of kindergarten age. But as you can see, I wanted to go back, to 2018 so you could see the number of identified students that we have coming in. So last year in 2025, we had 174 kindergartners that were projected to come to Pottstown schools that already had identified needs. And this is kind of twofold, right? So in some cases, it's good. If you can intervene earlier, you may be able to remediate and get the student, what they need to get them back on track. And then maybe they don't end up being one of our reported special education students. But some of the kids do have needs that those needs will follow them through their, school aged years. So you can see some of the, top categories or top areas of which we have itinerant delays, occupational therapy, speech is always a high one, as well as behavior supervision. So these are things that Mr. Jeffrey tracks. And when he comes and he says, hey, we need another BCBA or we need more BCBA support because we have behaviors in the classroom, this is why. Because, from last year, this year, we had 10 more identified or 11 more identified behavior students that just came in kindergarten. So, these pressures are real and we want to monitor and track them. But that's why I wanted to show you some of these things tonight so that we would keep this on our radar so that we're fully understanding of the costs that come along with our students. So that concludes what I have as far as the year to date and the budget update. I will pause. I'm happy to go back to any of those slides. My plan was to provide board members with this presentation and give me feedback this week. If you have additional questions, I'm happy to revise this presentation and report out more detail either in December or if time, allows even next week at the board meeting. So I'll stop talking. Somebody has to have something. Okay, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. That was very good. That was a lot of kind of what I was hoping for with the comparison last year to this year, last year's budget to this year's budget. And because of the state budget and even probably to some degree the federal, but especially the state being so late, I know it makes it even harder to compare where we're at with where we expected to be at. That being said, I'm going to ask for your impression. Is your sense overall when you're looking at our expenses, the bills that are coming in, is it broadly speaking what you expected it to be? Does it line up with what you were projecting to us with the budget?
Yeah, right now, yes, I would say there's nothing that's come in that I've been like, where did this come from? But again, I will say with the caveat of like, the things that get deducted at the state level, they're the wild cards because
right. And they're delayed.
We get 4010s, we get tuition or transportation that comes through the IU, which is all of those EI kids, early intervention. Unfortunately, we pay for that transportation. What we did do this year was bring back 3 IU classrooms into Edgewood. We looked at that last year. We saw it was trending in the wrong direction. We were taking kiddos to even Pottsgrove, but down to the early learning center in Norristown. So it's cha-ching. I will say transportation most times outweighs the cost of the service itself. So kids going for speech, we pay, in a sense, like we don't pay for early intervention, but like a typical speech bill, the transportation is more than the speech bill. And it happens a lot with our kiddos who go to outplaced services. Sometimes the kiddo's at an $80,000 placement, and I've seen transportation $145,000 to take one kiddo to their placement. And that's, when you can do something about that, that's where we're trying to target. In some cases, we just can't.
Right. Well, and it's good beyond the expense, that's wild. If I'm a parent of a kid who needs a service, I would love for them to be on a bus or in a van less. I'd love
Yes.
for them to be
Yeah.
closer. Assuming we can offer what they need. The other question I had was, you showed that we have increased local revenues, and you had some
Mhm.
different explanations. I'm going to assume that another reason they're increased is we did raise taxes. So
Sure.
did that generate what we were expecting it to? And can you remind us how much we were expecting that to generate?
I'll have to get the exact number. I think it's a little shy of I think it's $29 million in that range. Yeah, as of now, everything looks to be on track. I wouldn't know until, we get till the taxes become delinquent. So our paying, our taxpayers, the way they pay, it's always pretty consistent. The percentage of taxpayers that pay in installments usually do that every year. And those who pay on the discount period, it's usually about the same every year. So that, I would say for comparison purposes we'll see. We will see a little more revenue because we raise taxes, but yeah.
Cool. And if you get that information, maybe that could be in next week's update with the treasurer's report. I wonder if we can maybe do like a condensed version of this just for the whole board.
Yeah, sure.
Doesn't have to be everything, but I do think this it highlights that comparison. We look at it every month, but I think this
Mhm.
kind of calls out the track that we're on. So thank you for that.
Definitely. Is there anything else? I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Hilton.
Well, seeing no other hands, I will move into, are there any comments from the public?
Not at this time, Mr. Hilton.
Then I will adjourn this committee and turn it over to Mrs. Johnson.
Okay, thank you. So we'll call this meeting of the Public Relations and Community Engagement Committee together. First question is, do we have any new public comments?
Not at this time, Mrs. Johnson.
Thank you. So the first thing we have for tonight is we have a special guest with us, the CEO of Pottstown's Community Health and Dental, Bridget McGivern, or Bridget, am I pronouncing your name right? I was having this mental debate with myself ahead of time.
Yes, McGivern.
Okay, wonderful. And so she's going to present for us tonight about really anything she wants to. Feel free to go wherever you want with that, Bridget. But just what Community Health and Dental offers to the community, what things even just we as a school district and as school board members might want to know, as there are many, many healthcare needs in our community, and this is such an incredible resource. So we just wanted to give her a platform to share whatever, and for committee members and any other board members who have questions at the end, we'll have time for that as well. You can take it away.
All right. Well, first off, thank you, everyone, and good evening. So yes, as Laura had said, I'm the CEO of Community Health and Dental Care. I've been here 15 years. The organization was developed back in 2006, then known as the Pottstown Area Health and Wellness Foundation, kind of got us started. We are a nonprofit health center, a federally qualified health center, so that comes said very lightly because it's a very hard to get that designation. Right now, across the United States, federally qualified health centers are all individually incorporated. They make up the largest to serve primary care patients of 32 million people. So they've been around 60 years, and I'm kind of giving you the background because I really want you to understand how fortunate you are to have a health center in your backyard. But over 60 years they've been around. They've been bipartisan supported, as we receive some funding from the federal government to help, subsidize people who may not have insurance, who are underinsured, or who even have insurance because of the different services that are provided. So you receive grant money. We got that designation in 2012, which helped us really produce, all the services that I'm going to go over in a minute over the last few years at the health center. So ideally, what you're trying to do with an FQHC is have a space for people where they can have their preventive care, not use your emergency room, overuse the emergency room, try to get in, get your well checks done on the medical end, on dental end, and really have that center of, patient access. The health center right now, we have about 30,000 registered patients. We're growing around 400 new patients a month. When the grant application was written in 2012, the predominant area of our target was Pottstown. And that's due to some of the demographics, the needs in the community. You're competing against the whole nation to say, we need this funding. And we were awarded that. So that's when I came in, because I've been doing this for 22 years as a CFO and a CEO in multiple states, but I'm from Pennsylvania. So when I came in, I was ecstatic because I had an opportunity to really look at the health center, look at my options, understand the needs in the community. And at that point, I knew there was a lot of potential to really expand services beyond medical and dental. And having that health center designation allowed me to apply for other grants throughout the years. And those other grants, again, very competitive, you're competing against everyone in the nation, allowed me to add, medication assisted treatment services, physical therapy, vision, podiatry, integrated behavioral health. I just got an award last year to have a psychiatrist. She actually will be joining us December 1st. Which is a huge need in the community, mental health needs. Doing a lot of screenings. I developed back in 2014 a free transportation program because one of the things when I came to this area, I recognized people crossing over Route 100 because we were originally located in the back of the business park area next to co-located with Creative Health, which was, I think that was around 10,000 square feet, but the growth we were experiencing, I quickly outgrew that. So right now the health center's largest location is at the Coventry Mall or the shops at Coventry. That's where the old Ross used to be. So we're behind Dick's. So I've been here 7 years, gave me about 27,000 square feet. And that's exactly what I needed to integrate services. So if a patient comes in and they have a medical appointment, you can also get a vision appointment and a dental, like one-stop shopping same day. And that's been a really strong model because number one, we understand people work multiple jobs. Childcare is hard. So if we can get the patient in, their children in, we try to, do as many things as possible at the same type of visit. That's our largest site. We also have 2 other locations on Heritage Drive, 700, and that's where we have OBGYN services, women's health, which is a big need because I think back in 2016, I think that's when the hospital closed up their OBGYN program. So we partnered with some of their providers, work there, that now work at that site with us. We also integrate dental. So if you're coming in for a women's health appointment or a pregnant appointment, you can get your dental right then in there too, because dental is a big part of care when you're pregnant. That I also sublease space to WIC. So that's for women, infant, and children. That's where they can get their formula, lead testing, stuff like that. That's also co-located in that 700 location. 802 Inheritage Drive is dental only. Because of our name, Community Health and Dental Care, people had always have the vision that we just do dental, and that's not the case. I do have a large dental base, and dental is a huge need everywhere, but specifically, in this area, it's a big need. So that site's devoted just for dental. And then over the years and the understanding, you have to read community needs assessments. We work with the local hospitals. You really have to understand what the community needs are. Then we recognize Boyertown was an area of needing some of our services because number one, we take Medicaid. Which is an insurance that, for private practices, they take it as well. But our model is a little bit different. So we have a larger Medicaid population. Commercial people also come here. That's been growing over the past few years. And also Medicare is big. But for people who don't have insurance, we offer a healthcare discount or a sliding fee schedule, which is based on the federal poverty level. So with people at 100% that are eligible could be slid and pay as little as $25 for a medical visit, $40 for a dental. And then we have a medication dispensary program that allows us to buy prescriptions at federal pricing. So again, if you're 100% slid and you need an expensive diabetic medication, you could qualify to pay as little as $7. So these are all just some perks of having a health center as community health and dental care, federally qualified health center in your backyard. Understanding, the programs that we built, how we tried to integrate it over the years, make it easier for people, offering free transportation. Not all of my staff are our staff. They're paid. Nobody's volunteers. We have a vigorous quality programs to meet. If you can just stop and think about being federal, imagine the paperwork and regulations that are around that. But it's not we're not operating out a gymnasium, or we're not like a free only for the free people. That's, over the years being here, those are things that I picked up that I really want to make sure everybody's clear on, what community health and dental care is about. So I will pause there because I can keep talking, but I want to give an opportunity for any feedback or questions.
Any questions from committee members or other board members? Go ahead, Ms. Kansianik.
Yes, you mentioned so first of all, I think it's been great to see the growth that CHDC is going through. And I remember when they were first going over into the mall area, and I think back then it was just the dental and health, and then I heard then this is there and that's there, and it's been really nice to see. Can you just review the transportation piece? I know a couple people that utilize it, but I didn't know is it for anybody? Is it for a certain, what's the qualifications in the process?
It's free, number one, and it's for any registered patient at the health center. So pretend, like, say you have an appointment in Boyertown and you need to follow up with physical therapy. Well, I don't have physical therapy at the Boyertown location, so that person may need transportation to get to the mall or to Bartow where physical therapy is. So you just sign a general form of release, the patient would sign off on that. And then we have a schedule that it complements the best around, when your office visit can be. And then there's stops to and from every location. So throughout Pottstown is normally where a lot of people need the transportation, down in the borough, coming back up. So we do have rotating, stops. But yeah, you just have to be a registered patient in the health center to utilize that.
Awesome. No, this was very helpful. How long have you had? I know you said you've been at the mall, or not the mall, but for like 7 years, you said?
7 years. This past August was 7 years. Yep.
And you were listing some of the services that are just in that one location, because I think one of the things that I'm kind of taken with is like how convenient that can be when childcare is an issue, when transportation, work schedules, all of that, you said you have medical, dental, physical therapy, vision, podiatry, integrated behavioral health all over there.
Yes, and medication assisted treatment. And we're a center of excellence, which means if you know someone that has an opioid disorder, we got that designation back in 2016 from Governor Wolf, and that really helps the patient with our certified recovery specialist, with keeping them checking in, making sure they're on the right path. So that's another big program at our sites as well.
All right, that is wonderful. And do you find a lot of people using that then where they are coming and they're having 2 or 3 appointments the same day just so that they can take care of that?
Yes, I push it all the time because I understand, again, like working a couple jobs, it's hard to even get there, lugging the kids around. So yes, we tried to integrate as much as possible.
Yeah, that's awesome. Mr. Amato.
Yes, thank you. So given some of the most recent news as it pertains to the Pottstown Hospital, what do you anticipate that meaning to you? And are you thinking about how you might adjust to additional patients?
Yes, good question. We're not affiliated with Pottstown Hospital, so on my own standalone corporation, so you understand that. Yep. We may see an increase. I'm mostly worried about Medicaid. If some of the Medicaid changes happen in 2026 and people can start losing benefits, that's where you're really going to see an increase at your emergency rooms. We could see an increase in uninsured patients. So right now I'm trying to be proactive and educating our patients. Sometimes patients don't even realize they have Medicaid. They don't know what their insurance is. We have to consistently educate them, make sure they're renewing their application. So I'm trying to hit it from that angle, to be proactive with our patients so they don't get stuck in that loophole where they didn't submit something and then they lose benefits. So I am increasing potentially, more patients being uninsured. Hopefully we can get them settled at the health center so they have that medical home and dental home so they don't end up going to the emergency room, when it's too late, and care costs a lot more money. Some of the referrals, now I don't know all the ins and outs with, the recent news with the hospital, but I know they're looking at losing some programs. So for us, we would refer, if patients choose to go over to the hospital, we would refer there. So if some of those areas are closing, then we would have other partners that we would refer patients to. I have a couple mobile units, and also some vehicles that our community health workers utilize. So if patients needed an appointment to a specialist, as an example, outside of our service area, that can be coordinated. Community health workers are a big piece of care that people need, because they can work with the patient in their home, work with them where they're at, and really help guide them because it's complicated, with paperwork and insurances and all of that. They can really help guide them to have good health outcomes. So I don't know if that answered all your questions. Okay, thank you. We also have been doing a lot lately with the homelessness population. We work with Tower Health Hospital on a street medicine program. So they initiated that a few years ago. I got a grant last year as well to have a smaller, like a Sprinter medical mobile unit, which is now allowing us to go like near areas where homelessness can access care in that unit. And then building trust is a big thing, and your community health workers get involved, our providers, our clinical support staff, and then we get them back over to our other health center sites where you can start establishing the care that they need.
That's good.
Yeah, it's a big program.
Yeah. And like you said, establishing trust, that takes some
Yes.
time, I'm sure, but
Yeah,
a worthy
definitely.
investment. What would you say your biggest needs are right now, and particularly if there's anything that the community or school board members or anybody can do to support the mission over there? What are the things you direct us to be aware of in terms of needs?
I think just increasing awareness is where I can really help. Most of our referrals come from word of mouth or insurances. But I really think it's important that the community understands, you know, what CHTC is, not just, again, operating out a gymnasium. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we're bigger than that. It's a big program. And again, serving over 30,000 active patients, consistently increasing 400 new patients a month. And this isn't just from Pottstown. I'm pulling from Montgomery, Chester, and Berks County, because in a health center like this, you just don't get. They don't just appear and you have it. You really have to work hard and have it. So if anything, it's just, you know, really, it's not just for poor people. It's for everybody. I don't care if you make 600,000 a year. The services we have are quality services. You know, we're tested, we're graded, we have site visits. Believe me, they're very detailed. And, you know, that all produces a quality healthcare system, which is, you know, great. So I'm interested, you know, as people are aging, we're seeing, you know, 10,000 people are turning 65 every day in America. So your Medicare population is going up. Working on, you know, trying to have a Medicare program for Medicare, you know, specific patients, while I'm looking at analyzing and, you know, integrating our current service lines. I know that there's different needs for that age group. Children are really a struggle because they're behind on well visits. I see the data, we know this, but when we see the biggest spike is usually around sports physicals. I mean, I'm just being straight honest. That's where you're gonna have the kids come in to get the paperwork to play the sports. And our CMO is very particular. Like, she will take any child and turn that into a well child visit because she has them, you know, in front of them, the pediatric department. So, I mean, helping me increase awareness that how crucial it is to have those well visits, you know, especially for children, not just for the sports, but for everything. Again, if you flunk your screening for vision, we have a vision department. That's right. You walk right down the hall. You don't have to go schedule something somewhere else. You know, there's a lot of kids that are suffering. We do dental screenings at the school district. We've done that for years. And most of those kids that got screened have follow-up, have another appointment that they need to get because there's something, you know, that's not right with their teeth, whether they have cavities, they need access to dental care, hygiene, or, you know, there's a lot of students that have follow-ups. And that would be an area where I could help, where you all could help, you know, increasing the importance of following through with those appointments for the children.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Okay, I have one last question. Funding. You said you're federally funded. Are you pretty much 100% federally funded, or are there other? Okay.
No, most of my funding, about 80%, and I don't get a lot of donations. I mean, I'll take them. Anybody who wants to send us a donation, I'll take them. But I am a CFO by heart, so I have a very strong business plan. And most of my insurance, about 80% of my revenues come from billing insurances. That's sustainable, not relying on donors and grants and this and that. I've been successful with grant writing, which is amazing because they're very hard, but it's an area where I will get the grant awards and that helps me get the program started. So like with physical therapy as an example, as one of those grant awards I got, it takes time. You have to hire the people, you have to train them, you have to credential them, you have to do all the business stuff. So you're already talking 6 months, like just as an example. And then until you get the service integrated and everybody understands what it is, there's another year that's gone by. So those grants help me, you know, get those programs set up. And then by year 2, I'm sustainable because it's operational through, you know, billing the insurances. The federal grants, they're the HRSA program, which is the federal program we're part of. The original intent of getting those awards for 60 years was to help subsidize people who don't have insurance. So that's when I mentioned you have a healthcare discount. So Bridget comes to the health center, I'm 100% slid, I pay $25. That part, the rest of that visit then is going over to my healthcare discount, which the grant money helps subsidize. That's what the whole federal grant does. over the years, as the nation recognizes there's more needs in maternal care, behavioral health, psychiatry. I mean, it is so hard to find a psychiatrist, and we're super, super blessed that we're getting one December 1st. That was very hard to even seal that deal, but that's an integrated part of our care. Those grants that I get over those years help me develop these programs, you know, to offer to the community. So you could look at another health center that, you know, is in Reading. There's one in Norristown, there's one in Allentown, all separate, but each of the areas of the health centers are based on their community needs and then how successful they are with program development and grant writing and all that fun stuff. So overall, I mean, I think it's been, you know, 15 years of a journey, a lot of hard work, but it's paying off because when you have a product like this, that there's really nothing to compare to it, especially when you can have access for everybody, regardless of their ability to pay. So,
It's very helpful.
Yeah.
I appreciate understanding the financial piece.
yeah,
So the grants largely help set up the programs, but from what I'm kind of getting from what you're saying, the billing from insurance, whether it's through Medicaid, Medicare, commercial insurance, that is what really becomes the sustaining part of those programs once they're going, right?
correct, exactly. Yep.
Okay. I really appreciate you being here. I
Yeah.
think this is good for us for sure to have a good sense of the programs and the whole setup that you've got. And hopefully community members who see this will also find it very helpful. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura. And I also sent you that attachment if you wanted to share it with how it's easy it is for people to become a patient, and we'd help guide them through pre-registration, you know, and that process, because it could be hard to get medical records, you know, for people that want to get established for care. So that's an easy brochure I sent you
That's good.
to help.
Yeah, and I have that. Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
can share it now, but I think mainly what's going to be helpful, right, is if we make sure community members have it and
Yeah,
forward it. Yeah, I'll forward that around.
Yeah.
Awesome.
wonderful.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have a video with Power School updates from Mr. Rodriguez, who is not here, but we had decided that it would be worth doing a little Power School update since we just came through the end of the first marking period, and there's some things to say there. So we'll go ahead, and Anthony, if you can go ahead and play that, then we'll come back in a little bit.
Hello everyone, this message is specific to Pottstown School District parents, and it is our hope that you are taking advantage of the Power School app or your access on Power School. So just as a review, Power School will tell you lots of information about your children, including what classes they are taking, what grades they are getting. You can see attendance there, and you can also see, new this year, behavior. So if your child has ever received a detention or a suspension or a write-up of some sort, you can get all that material and all those records on Power School. But you need to sign up, and parents will often say, well, Mr. Rodriguez, it is so hard to sign up. Yes, it is a multi-step process to make sure that the only people who have access to your children's records is you. So that does mean that it takes a couple of minutes, but it is very easy. So as soon as you're done looking at me, we're gonna roll in a how-to video. It's a simple step process. You can access this on your mobile phone or you can access it on your laptop or home computer. Either way will do. We want you to make sure you have all the information you need to be the best parent that you can. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Anthony, I think the other video in the agenda, the first one, is the one intended for, I mean, these are both good for this meeting, but do you see the other one there in the agenda?
I thought it was the this video. I can get that video though.
Okay, it's the one that said it's like a Zoom video. I could also try to play it, but I'd rather give you a second because my guess is you you'll have fewer issues than I will if I try to play it. But let me know if you need me to. While he is doing that, oh, okay, hold on. I see he does not have the Zoom one. It's in the agenda. I'll go ahead and share. So give me 1 second while I get that pulled up. I hope it does not override the Zoom meeting I'm currently on. Okay. Okay, has everybody seen my screen? And I'm gonna go ahead and play that.
I'm just seeing, oh, there it goes.
Okay, yep, no, that was my bad. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and play it and we're gonna just flag me down if it's not working.
Good evening, committee members. I am happy to be with you, even if it is virtually. I'm recording this while students are not in session. And the reason that I am not with you is because I am at the November PASA Board of Governors meeting. They are oftentimes in the evening because typically speaking, you don't want to take a superintendent out during the school day wherever possible. So Mrs. Johnson asked me to speak to the committee about a few items, and I will be brief. I understand there's also a video that we've released to the public that will be shown to the committee regarding how to use Power School. So this is a kind of a Power School and marking period update. So hopefully everyone can see. And there's only a couple of slides here, but I just wanted to let board members know that this year, you might recall me talking about this back in August, MBA attendance is our new attendance system because we received so much, quite frankly, negative feedback and lack of use of the previous safe arrival system that we took some time to search and found another program that we thought would be better for our community. So MBA, not to be confused with the famous business degree, but it's MBA attendance system fully integrates with Power School. So that's really good for all of us because we have more accurate system readings. And so far, the feedback is great. It took us a while because Safe Arrival was still being displayed on some of our website and Power School portals, but that's not because of us. That's because Power School didn't actually take it down. So we were able to hide those things so that MBA is the main thing that's being used. And I put out several messages about the fact that that is the system to use. And so far now, what is it? November, we're doing okay as it relates to use of that system. So report cards. A couple weeks ago, report cards were supposed to come out on Monday, November 3rd. They didn't. And there's no beating around the bush. That was a miss on our part. It was a mix of human error and procedural, but is also, quite frankly, human error. And as a result, when we run into those issues, it's my general outlook on things that it's better to be late but accurate than on time and inaccurate, with people being angry about the fact that things aren't correct. So I'll simply say that we're reviewing all these things and doing our best to make sure that it doesn't happen again in the future. One of the biggest delays was at the middle school, and again, I'm explaining this not for anything other than information. These things happen. So in the middle school, we have had an enrichment program for a long time, and that class, instead of rating it on a 100-point numeric scale, a decision was made way back when, not realizing that it would potentially mess up our report card system. But the decision was made to use a 4-point grading scale. So in other words, hey, 1, you're not doing so good. 2, you need to do a little bit better. 3, you're okay. And 4, you're outstanding. In terms of an enrichment system, that's actually a pretty good deal for both the teacher as well as the student. But in terms of translating that into report card, what was happening was, for those enrichment classes, students were getting a 1%, 2%, 3%, or 4% out of 100%, because you can't use 2 different grading systems at the same time. But almost all of our classes were based on the 100-point grading system. So that was a miss, and we corrected it, and that's why it took as long as it did. We also had some issues with regard to honor roll, which is also related to that grading scale system. So, good news, bad news. We missed the timeline, but we also found that there was actually only one parent complaint that came to my office. And and I wouldn't even call it a complaint. It was more like an information item. Hey, just so you know, we don't have access. Now, I'm sure there were parents who may have known about it and tried to look up and saw that they were locked out of the system for longer than normal. But the data point here is that maybe report cards have kind of seen their heyday, and because parents can check in on PowerSchool more regularly, they're not as dependent on report cards as they used to be. All right, moving on. I just want to touch base monthly academic reports. It took us a little while to get things sorted out at the high school, as is always the case in the beginning of the year, but we're on track. The monthly academic reports are going out to all parents, whether they ask for it or not. They don't have to open the email. They don't have to look at anything, but it's getting sent to them. So they don't have to log into PowerSchool to see how their students are doing. The academic report is very simple. So it might look like, biology, gym, U.S. history, and algebra. And you're just going to see a number: 88, 85, 89, 87. That's it. But if you want more, you simply click into PowerSchool and you can see a lot more. So we're liking the response that we're getting here, and think that we're going to use this in the future. The one thing I will say is that we are seeing, as we're thinking about, can we use this at the middle school? Can we use this at the elementary school? Elementary has some different challenges. Some of their report cards literally look different from quarter 1 to quarter 4, and they are not numeric based. So you can't just say, how's my first grader doing? 88. That's not appropriate. So we have to think through some of those things in terms of how we might do it differently. But I will tell you that I like the idea of being able to email parents so that they don't have to log in, and they're not having access issues. We give it to them, and that is, if someone wonders, well, Stephen, is this part of some of those cultural issues you talked to us last time, that sometimes schools need to figure out what the culture is and then meet those new demands? Yes, that's exactly correct. That's why I am not a big fan of report cards anymore. Okay, so marking period progress. Speaking of report cards, we're not super far in terms of an organization. We're talking about it. Some of those conversations are superficial. I believe that once we get into the conversation a little bit further, we're going to be able to make some pretty quick progress.
but I might be a little bit idealistic. However, as of right now, I am pleased with our progress. We're talking about what assessment looks like, how it needs to be integrated, not just for the student, but also for the teacher. And there's a lot of different questions. I won't go into that because this is the community engagement section of the conversation, but there's a whole instructional section of the conversation that needs to happen as well. But as I have informed various committees, I think we're going to be moving away from the typical report card 45-day 1830s marking period structure. So just overall, to back out and say, hey, how is Power School going? Like I talked about several different things within Power School, but how is Power School usage going? And the reality is that we know parents aren't necessarily checking in every week to a high degree, but we also know that at the secondary levels, students are definitely checking in. So I'll admit for my own, I have a high schooler right now, and I don't check the parent portal. I say, young lady, you need to open up your whatever system they're using. It's not Power School. I forget the name of it, and I'll just say, open it up because I know you keep track of your grades. Show me your grades. How you doing? So I don't go into the Power School or the parent portal, and I suspect that many others also don't do that, but they are talking to their son or daughter and checking in. So one of the ways that we figure out a feedback point is, are we getting a lot of complaints? And the answer is no. Did we get a lot of complaints about eSchool? Yeah, pretty much every month. No one liked eSchool when we used it, especially from parents. Are we, are our parents 100% satisfied with Power School? Well, as I have said before, there's no question that the Power School parent app is not as good or robust, and it won't give you the same information as the website when you log on with a laptop or a computer. So we know that, but that's typical of most of these type of systems. But in terms of Power School overall, we don't get a lot of complaints. So I think we are on the right track. So that's all I have for now. I want to say thank you so much and queue up the next video if you guys decide to watch it. This is an older video that we have on our website and we've sent out a few times to make sure that parents know how to use Power School. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
There we go. I'm back. We already watched that other video, so we will not circle back to it again, but I just wanted to do that update and see if committee members or any other board members had any comments before we move on. Go ahead, Ms. Kansanik.
The attendance program, that's on Power School, right? Like you can get to it from Power School.
But
Okay,
not in the app. Like if you
right,
go
on a laptop.
that I will say, don't love that. I really wish, because it is, I mean, you can go in, and this is worth noting. I have gone into the Power School's website via browser from my phone. So it's not like somebody without a laptop can't access it, but it is clunkier. You do have to go through another hoop. Whereas I'm like, I would love if I could go right on the app and do it. It feels like you should be able to, but obviously that's not an us problem. It's just kind of the way it's working.
Okay.
And yeah, yeah, I chuckled when he said there was only one parent complaint about about the report cards, because that was definitely me, guys. So um let's see. I think that's it for that particular thing. Let me pull up at least so I can see the agenda on my computer. Oh, and it looks like I closed that window. Anthony, would you mind posting or putting the agenda up again? Because it looks like I went out of it. Or else I could do it from memory, but that does not always lead to good results.
Let me see what I can do.
Okay, or hold on. Maybe I can do it a different way. It's just a matter of I need to go in and get it. Okay, I got it. Just minor tech problems tonight. Okay, moving on from that. One thing I wanted to bring up, that is, this is not for a full discussion tonight, but something I want on people's radars. I would like to maybe have a discussion about in the future and see what we as a district can do. Bike safety in Pottstown. I cannot be the only one who has had or witnessed close calls as I've driven through the borough. And it's not always kids, but sometimes it's kids on their bikes in the middle of the road, whatever. And this is not a new problem. I would like to just say their kids have always been kids and have always needed guidance on bike safety. And now we also have a lot of other small vehicles and scooters and all that. I would love to see what we could do, be it community partnerships, because I do know that there's going to be a program this coming year that involves other organizations in town for bicycle safety. Or I know that in the past, sometimes there's been police programs that have come into the schools to do bike safety. I don't know what it should look like now. But I guess for starters, I want to ask, am I the only one who thinks we have a problem? Okay. So I'm concerned, and would just love to see what we can do. I am very aware that the schools cannot address every level of problem, especially things that happen outside of our schools. But it's a health and safety issue. It is something I think we can help along with other community organizations to see what we can do to work on this. And I know that there are things already being done. I know some of the elementary schools, I know there's bike to school day. I don't want to make it sound like nothing's being done, but I do think more needs to happen. And so I wanted to at least raise that. I will definitely make sure I already have made sure it's on Mr. Rodriguez's radar, because I would love to see what we could do with other organizations. I'm always very hesitant to be like, here's a problem, we should solve it. Because we're already doing so much. Our teachers are already doing so much. But where there's a problem that needs work, I do want to be a part of the solution. So just kind of raising this, see if anybody else has additional thoughts. Ms. Kancianek.
Yeah, there was I'm not sure if it's still in town, but there was like a bike place in town or near town. Um and I think they were a part of a bike giveaway a few years
Yes,
ago.
there
Yeah,
have been.
so like somebody like that might be able to do something. I don't
Right.
know. I can't remember who.
Yeah, and at least should be in the loop on whatever we might be doing,
Right.
right? Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I've seen like an uptick in stolen bikes. So I've heard people like saying that a lot more.
Mhm.
So I don't know what can happen there, but bikes have been a thing lately.
Yeah.
Um, and not just I think you kind of alluded to it earlier, but the motorized bikes have been around a lot too lately.
And
That's more
scooters and all
adult.
of it. Yeah.
Yeah. But at the middle school at dismissal time, the bikes are definitely out and about.
Mhm.
So I agree. I think it's a good idea just to give, tips and not even just tips for safety, but also like protocol. Like, you go, then the car goes, or what, like that kind of
Right.
stuff. Kids don't learn on their own.
Right. Right. And I think, I mean, one thing I definitely want to say and make sure I'm being clear about, I love that there's all these bikes out. Like, I love kids and adults using their bikes. I'm not opposed to any of the kind of the micro forms of transportation. I think they're great. I actually would like to see more of them. And there's this whole weird other legal thing with like all the rules around the different types of electric stuff, especially. And I'm not going to get into all that. But regardless of the legality of some of them, I just wish I could see people follow basic, like you said, protocols and rules of the road, because that is really the thing that concerns me. Have just witnessed some crazy behavior, and some of it just like not knowing and cars not watching, and obviously cars need to also do their part. So I don't know. This is just something to explore. It's been on my radar a little bit lately, and I figured I'd raise it and we can look into it and see what else is going on and how we can partner with, hopefully with folks that are already doing stuff, and already driving this forward. Let's see, bike safety. Okay, state budget. Maureen did a great job going over everything. I know she hopped off. One thing I wanted to call out, and I'm just looking here at my other screen to make sure there were a couple things alongside of the funding pieces, and she spoke to this a little bit with cyber charter funding, and there's also been improvements with teacher certification. First, mentioning the cyber charter stuff, one of the big problems that can happen with cyber charter is truancy and well checks is what they're calling them. But basically, you can and do. I know this is a real problem and has been an extreme and tragic problem at times in certain parts of the state, where kids are cyber students, but they're not, nobody's got eyes on them. They're not showing up for class. They're whatever. They're doing they or whoever's with them is doing the bare minimum to log them on so that they don't get kicked out. And it's pretty darn easy to get back into the cyber school then once you, even if you have serious attendance issues. What this does is it actually really cracks down on some of that, that whole thing where you're a cyber student, but you're not there. And it restricts the ability of, kids who are already habitually truant from switching over to a cyber school, because their school district is starting to tell them, hey, you've got truancy issues. This is trying to rein that in. It's also ensuring that students have screens on, I believe it is at least once a week, which still seems so low, but students have to turn their screens on. There has to be a sense of the student is actually there. So that's one thing I wanted to call out as a budget win, in addition to, again, very, very, very serious improvements in the funding on both the cyber charter and the fair funding side. And there's also some things that I won't go into all the details, but with teacher certifications, trying to remove some of the barriers in place to allowing folks to come back to teaching from another career, and generally streamlining some of the certifications, trying to make it more, sometimes, and I say we, I don't mean like we, but like sometimes the government, broadly speaking, they know they want something good, but they put so many pieces of red tape in the way that it just becomes so burdensome. And so this was helpful in hopefully reining some of that in. So I wanted to call out those wins as well, and I will stop there. And I think that is all we have then for tonight. Are there any other thoughts, Mr. Amato or Ms. Kansianik or any other board members? Any questions or thoughts about advocacy or anything else we discussed? Okay.
Well, I do,
Oh
sorry.
yeah, go
I
ahead.
put my hand back up. I heard Maureen say it earlier, but I don't need to go over the resolution then from PSBA because the budget passed,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, the budget passed. It's done. Like
Yeah, okay.
it's all done. There's nothing. And yeah,
Okay.
very good news. Yes, Mr. Amato.
Yeah, so maybe that resolution as it stands right now seems like it's late to the show. However, maybe we want to consider how we could reword that resolution to give okay, you're starting to live up to your constitutional and court-ordered and moral obligations. Keep up the good work.
Sure, or we can
Expect to
just,
see more next year.
I was gonna say, or we can just save that resolution because the next state budget is right around the corner. Shapiro will give his budget address in February. We're literally 3 months away from the start of the budget season, guys. I know, just yes, and one, I guess the last thing to call out about the budget is this was the second year installment of that fair funding, 7 or 8 or whatever math they're doing, years of installment, and the value of that is we're really a precedent, and this is part of why folks who don't want to fully fund schools don't like it, but the precedent is there of this is what we do now. The court ordered that we fully fund our schools. The plan was laid out, then the plan was slightly modified by the legislature, but now we're on track to do it. And there are a lot of folks who are saying, no, this is what we're doing now. Now, every year it could be a fight all over again, and there will be people who would love to not fully fund that next year's installment. But we are on track to actually create this as a long-term program that we're doing, a long-term habit of bringing these schools up to full funding. We are part of the way there. So, Mr. Amato, I know you wanted to say something. I don't know what it is, but you turned your mic on.
No, I agree with what you're saying. I just I would like to have constant contact, constant reminder, so that it's not we come to, I want to say next year, but literally we come to 2 months from now and we're reliving everything. No, I'm all for, hey, nice job, got to keep it up.
Oh, absolutely. And I will just call out both our state rep, Joe Cerisi, and our state senator, Tracy Pennycook, who have really been pushing the cyber charter stuff. Total credit where it is due. They've been really, really working on behalf of getting some of those reforms done and have been supportive of our needs as a school district in terms of visiting and seeing what's going on and understanding the situation. So appreciation to both of them.
So now that we've extended this conversation a little bit, I'll extend it a little bit more. Hey, you're headed in the right direction. Thank you to our local legislators for what you're doing. But I don't want to sell any of the farm for vouchers.
Never.
Or, quite honestly, EITC either. I'm not interested in selling anything for those 2 items.
Nope, no vouchers. Okay, the last thing on our agenda other than public comment is an FAC update. I know it was, well, I guess we're not still totally behind time tonight, but I don't know if Mercedes Jackson or anybody else from FAC is, yay, I was gonna say, I assumed you were there, Mercedes. You can give an update and a public comment all at once, like you usually do.
Hello, Mercedes Jackson, East High Street, Pottstown, PA. In regards to the FAC update, we have a previous FAC member who is like in the nursing field and also transitioned over to like a real estate field and wants to come back and partner up with the 2 companies that she works for to do bring some more resources to the Pottstown School District. So that's exciting. Also, FAC is planning to do sometime this month. We just need to find a good date, a Friendsgiving. So potluck Friendsgiving, so everybody can bring something. We'll just kind of get like a spreadsheet set up so everybody's not all bringing desserts, you know.
Bye night.
also too, the Franklin isn't doing it this year, so that was kind of Miss Kramer's baby. So that I hope that FAC doing it, and hopefully we get supported by this Pottstown, the school board. Will be, I feel like this, yeah, some people look at it as, if they're busy around the holidays doing their own thing, and that's fine, right? But this is for the people who don't have their own thing to do, right? So, and it's, so if people can't make it, that's fine. If they have their own family tradition going on and they're not in town, that's okay. Don't feel like you're missing out, but we want to make it for the people who don't have anyone, or, to make this a tradition for them to know that they're not alone in these times, that is not always a positive time for everyone. And just create some, new memories and bond. And then, so that's the FAC update. And in regards to public comment, it's so easy to, and I'm saying this as a parent too, right? It's like so many people in this day and age, they want to give their kids a phone because they fear to not be able to reach them at any given time. And so I'm not going to say, hey, don't give your kids a phone, right? And nor am I going to tell you how to parent your kid, because everybody's circumstances are different. But I will say this, is that if you are giving your kid a phone, at least have some boundaries and some parameters around it, right? Because, if it's a rule to not have it in school, right, then have them, check it in, put it up so it's not a distraction, because just how important it is for a parent to be able to reach their child, it's just as important as your child to get their education that is free, right? Because in kids in other countries, what they get here in America, they are so blessed and honored. And I hope that they just take advantage of that opportunity. And also, the things that the phone allows kids to do, the texting and things like that. I mean, there's so many times I'm in a community and I see a group of friends standing around and they're in their phone and they're standing around. They don't even know how to engage in a real conversation. That is a problem. What are you going to do when you go for a job interview? You want to stand there and text the person that you're interviewing with? No, you're not going to get the job, most likely. So I just want to put that out there. Like, whatever you're doing, just have some boundaries, teach them how to use it, and also keep in mind that these phones are GPS systems. So there's always not people on the other end of these phones isn't always safe. So please just keep that in mind and teach your kids how to not be in their phone all the time when they're walking into public and almost get hit. I'm constantly pulling over and telling kids, like, lift your head up, get out the phone. I'm saying? It's not that important, so, tell them get back to you later. So again, and I'm glad I drive at a slow speed through these neighborhoods, but that's not the case with everybody. So just please be mindful. We want your kids to live a long life, and please just set some parameters. These kids have tons and tons of friends, but they only get two parents, one mom, one dad, and that's if they even get that. So thank you for listening, and always thank you, Laura, for allowing me to have a FAC, to have a platform on the school board.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing. Are there any other public comments?
Not at this time, Mrs. Johnston.
Okay, then quickly reviewing my agenda to make sure I didn't miss anything. I think we're good. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Our next community engagement meeting will be on December 4th as a combination with all of the other ones. Okay. Thank you.